The Chosen One. F.S.I. Jazudin published October 21, 2022. The writer is an author. Indian nobility was known for its quirks. The Nawab of Junagadh celebrated the wedding of his pet dogs with unaffordable pomp and extravagance. The last Nizam of N. Independent Hyderabad state, Mir Osman Ali Khan, followed a curious procedure when selecting his companion. Every afternoon, the women of his zanana would congregate in the garden. The Nizam would enter and place a white handkerchief on the chosen one's shoulder. The United States has again selected Pakistan and, after some years of abstinence, placed a white handkerchief on its shoulder. After assiduously ignoring Prime Minister Imran Khan for 3 years, the Biden administration has suddenly warmed to his successor Shehbaz Sharif. During the recent United Nations General Assembly, Biden and his wife granted a photo op to our Prime Minister, flanking him in a composition not lost on avid diplomatic watchers. The IMF, which in July had to be importuned by the establishment to hurry the release of the tranche of $1.6 billion, is suddenly all smiles, as is the World Bank. They received our latest finance minister, until most recently persona non grata in his own country, with melting warmth and hospitality. Then, unexpectedly, the white handkerchief slipped last week. President Biden, in a speech at a Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee reception, while referring to President Xi Jinping, took a side swipe at Pakistan. The transcript reads, "This Xi Jinping is a guy who understands what he wants but has an enormous array of problems. How do we handle that? How do we handle that relative to what's going on in Russia? And what I think is maybe one of the most dangerous nations in the world, Pakistan. Nuclear weapons without any cohesion." Before reacting to Biden's speech, our government should have read its full text. It would have been alerted to a refrain that occurs throughout it. Because the world, especially Pakistan, was looking at him closely, the reaction by governments was instantaneous. The U.S. ambassador was summoned by our Foreign Office. A démarche was issued, the previous one on Cablegate, a diplomatic scandal, is still cooling on his desk. Within a day or so, the State Department issued a statement: the United States is confident of Pakistan's commitment and its ability to secure its nuclear assets. The white handkerchief seems to have been restored. But for how long? U.S. foreign policy is as fickle as the Nizam's ardor, and often as short-lived. While Pakistan remains beholden to the United States for a number of reasons, historical, economic, military, it is perhaps time for the pundits in the Foreign Office to reassess our foreign policy options. In the 1970s, the present foreign minister's grandfather did. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, sensing that the winds of change were blowing across Asia, initiated relations with the People's Republic of China, then an international pariah. Today we are reaping the dividends of that brave initiative. Certainly, the United States has itself felt the need to peer into the future. In that same speech to his fellow Democrats, President Biden has spoken of the enormous opportunities for the United States to change the dynamic in the second quarter of the 21st century. Can it? The U.S. is faced with two adamantine opponents on the opposite side of the globe, a resurgent Russia with imperial ambitions to expand its pre-Gorbachev frontiers, and a relentlessly successful China which wants, sooner rather than later, a reunification of Taiwan with the motherland. China feels justified. After all, it could argue, in 1982 Great Britain embarked on a war with Argentina over the Falkland Islands, Isla Malvinas and the 500,000 sheep grazing there. China has a stronger claim to an island that lies 177 kilometers offshore. The Falkland Islands a mere 13,900 km offshore Land's End. We know the Americans see us through their political bifocals. How do we view ourselves? Today, we have elected narcissists without the looks and without a lake. Our government is an uneasy composite of a number of coalition partners. If only the PMLQ and the PTI could lower the wings of humility and think above themselves, they would realize this is the closest we will ever get to a national government. But then, politics is not the exercise of common sense. It is, as Biden says, not a joke, not a joke. If only our politicians could take themselves seriously. The writer is an author. Published in Dawn, October 20. Editorial published October. Chastening comments. Editorial published October 21, 2022. India has built a slick, PR-backed image of itself as a shining country, a sort of giant amongst nations. But as chastening observations made by the UN Secretary-General during a visit to the country have illustrated, much remains to be done where the rights of minorities in the country are concerned. Antonio Guterres termed India a partner of choice of the UN. Yet other comments made by the global body's chief were far less flattering. Mr. Guterres called upon New Delhi to protect the rights of all individuals, including members of minority communities, while urging his host country to nurture and strengthen diversity. He also asked India to do more to advance gender equality and protect women's rights, while calling upon the state to take concrete actions to protect the rights of journalists, activists, students and academics, who have all faced the wrath of the Hindutva state. It is not too difficult to understand what motivated the UN chief's observations. After all, ever since the BJP took power in 2014, India's minorities, particularly its Muslims, as well as other citizens who disagree with the Sangh Parivar's blinkered vision, have had a rough ride. Indian Muslims have been lynched and seen their homes bulldozed, while discriminatory laws have been passed to disenfranchise millions of them. The United Nations General UNGA Headquarters UNGA warm to become more interested in or enthusiastic about something. She was warming to her theme. UNGA. The United Nations General Assembly is one of the 6 principal organs of the United Nations, serving as the main deliberative policy. The International Monetary Fund (IMF) is a major financial agency of the United Nations, and an international financial institution, headquartered in Washington, D.C., consisting of 190 countries. Its stated mission is working to foster global monetary cooperation, secure financial stability, facilitate international trade, promote high employment and sustainable economic growth, and reduce poverty around the world. Formed in 1944, started on the 27th of December 1945. Be all smiles. Look very cheerful and pleased, especially in contrast to a previous mood. She was all smiles now that the crisis was over. The World Bank is an international financial institution that provides loans and grants to the governments of low and middle-income countries for the purpose of pursuing capital projects. Side swipe. A passing critical remark about someone or something. The book was chiefly an attack on the literary work of Rossetti, but it also took a few side swipes at Swinburne. Démarche. An action or gesture by a diplomat, especially a formal appeal, protest, or the like. A pariah state, also called an international pariah or a global pariah, is a nation considered to be an outcast in the international community. A pariah state may face international isolation, sanctions, or even an invasion by nations who find its policies, actions, or its very existence unacceptable. Mikhail Sergeyevich Gorbachev, the 2nd of March 1931 to the 30th of August 2022, was a Soviet politician who served as the last leader of the Soviet Union from 1985 to the country's dissolution in 1991. Narcissist noun. A person who has an excessive interest in or admiration of themselves. Narcissists who think the world revolves around them. PR. Permanent residency is a person's legal resident status in a country or territory of which such person is not a citizen but where they have the right to reside on a permanent basis. Hindutva, literally, Hindu-ness, is a modern political ideology that advocates for Hindu supremacy and seeks to transform India. Constitution. The Sangh Parivar translation, family of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, or the RSS family, refers, as an umbrella term. If someone has a rough ride or a bumpy ride, they experience a lot of problems or opposition when they are trying to do something. Amnesty International is an international non-governmental organization focused on human rights, with its headquarters in the United Kingdom. The organization says it has more than 10 million members and supporters around the world. Brush aside. Dismiss something as being unimportant or not worth consideration, disregard something. He brushed sweep something under the carpet. To ignore, deny, or conceal from public view or knowledge something that is embarrassing, unappealing, or damaging to one's reputation. You need to stop sweeping your problems. Fascism, a way of organizing a society in which a government ruled by a dictator controls the lives of the people and in which people are not allowed to disagree with the government. The rise of fascism in Europe before World War II.